Alright fellas, now Darren Till just made his return against Darren Stewart today on a Misfits card, and what was clear from this bout was, hey, Darren Till actually ain't half bad for an MMA fighter turned influencer boxer. Now after a hyped but troubled MMA career, I think we all thought the Duplessis fight might have been the last we would have seen of him. But nope, he's made a name for himself in influencer boxing somehow, and it surprisingly might end up with him being one of the biggest stars of it. So we need to talk about this fight as well as what might be next for Till. But just quickly, if you don't know, my name's Cloister, and this is your one-stop shop for everything MMA, so make sure to subscribe and I will always keep you in the loop. Now, I won't lie, after Till's first boxing bout on Social Knockout 3, which was headed by Abdu Rozik, I thought this was all a pretty sad end for Till. From a shot at the belt only a few years before, to this. It just didn't look good for the fella. This fight just didn't make his future prospects look hopeful. But to his credit, he got signed by Misfits, which was one of Misfits' smarter moves in quite a while. He fought Anthony Taylor and now Darren Stewart, and has looked pretty good in both fights, and probably has now lined himself up for mega fights down the road. Now, MMA fighters fighting within crossover boxing is nothing new. Usually it's a retirement home for previous stars. Although normally we're used to it being a pretty sad tale. Legendary MMA fighter, fighting young influencer boxer, old fighter gets slept in a different sport, YouTuber takes credit, I think they're a great fighter because of it, and then the cycle just sort of repeats. We've seen it with Woodley, Askren, Diaz, the list goes on. For the most part, we've seen most of these ex-MMA stars fighting Jake Paul. Most of the MMA fighters have managed to avoid the Misfits promotion, which I think has been a pretty poor move on behalf of Misfits. Instead of paying ex-MMA stars, which have a good profile, they break the bank on people like Slim and Dean the Great instead. Till's Misfits emergence has been huge for revitalising the promotion. If his fight with Tommy Fury would have happened, that simply would have been huge. And I'm sure they're still looking to try and set that up. But I'm not sure Tommy would be too keen on it, but we'll get into that later on. So today he fought Darren Stewart. Who actually is that, you ask? Good question. I don't think anyone who watches Misfits would have had a clue. But he was a UFC lower ranking sort of veteran, fighting 14 times in the promotion between 2016 and 2021. So, hey, fair play. But now let's talk about the fight itself. The opening round saw a dramatic start as Till landed a flush straight left hand that sent Stewart crashing down to the canvas. Till looked pretty dangerous early on, his signature left hand repeatedly finding its mark with sharp accuracy, while Stewart, he seemed to struggle to settle into the fight. As the bout progressed, Stewart found his rhythm by turning the fight into a very clinch-heavy, scrappy sort of affair. From rounds 3 to 6, he consistently pushed Till against the ropes, nullifying Till's range and limiting his ability to unleash that powerful left hand. While many of Stewart's shots landed on the guard, his relentless pressure gave the impression that he was kinda controlling the fight. Till meanwhile found it very difficult to respond with volume, and the momentum appeared to shift in Stewart's favour. In the final 2 rounds, Till began to show signs of solid resurgence. Round 8 in particular was his strongest since the opener. He landed a brutal left hook that visibly rocked Stewart, followed by a picture-perfect straight left that sent him tumbling down as the final bell rang. The late knockdown added drama to the conclusion. Till would end up winning by unanimous decision. Overall, it was a pretty solid performance from Till, yet it also did show gaping holes within his defense. Fighting someone his size showed how Till's back foot boxing just isn't that strong. He sits on the ropes way too long, he has little actual defense and can be hit pretty easily. If he was fighting somebody Stewart's size who wasn't making their boxing debut, I reckon he might have been in a bit of trouble. But what won him the fight simply was being more precise with his punches and landing the quicker shots that probably allowed him to steal rounds 4 to 6 on the cards. Of course, now there's the question of what's next for Darren Till. Now after the fight, he called out KSI. Could I see this happening? No way. Why? Well, there's a few reasons. For one, KSI's hand still has major issues. Most likely he'll have to get surgery followed by months of rehab. It's unlikely we're even going to see KSI back in the ring till at least the back part of the year. Additionally, if he was to return, Till would be a bit of a nightmare comeback fight. Till's fighting at cruiserweight currently. He's way too big, has solid fundamentals, a solid jab, a solid left hand, and has been training boxing now consistently for a couple years. What KSI would not want is an opponent who is risky unless the payoff of a win is worth it. Fighting Till, the payoff isn't worth it. KSI will say this might be an option because he doesn't want to be seen as ducking him, when in reality, the chances of this fight happening are probably closer to 0. This fight just doesn't make sense for KSI. Fighting Tommy Fury again? Yeah, there's a lot more there for KSI. Fighting Till, there's just not much to prove. Fighting someone like Ferguson or Cowboy, which they have targeted in the past, is way more likely for KSI. They aren't that tough in a boxing sense, that it just isn't their sport, and KSI has the weight and ability to probably knock them out at this stage in their careers. So I don't think Till is fighting KSI anytime soon. But another option for Till would be Tommy Fury. This makes the most sense. Solid internal UK clash, probably the best pay-per-view Misfits could make outside of a KSI fight. It just kinda ticks all the boxes. Would Tommy Fury want this though? Probably not. Although I think Fury would still win, it's too much of a risk for him. Why would Fury want to risk bigger paydays and potential rematches against KSI or Paul for a fight against Till, who Till's shown he's not a complete pushover? So although I hope this is next, I don't think this will happen either. And a third I've heard people call for is Jake Paul. Now, unless Jake Paul loses a couple fights in a row or needs an absolute last minute opponent, we will never see this fight happen. Jake is on the path now after Chavez Jr. to fight some of the biggest names in the sport, or lesser known names for world titles. It sounds crazy, it's morally wrong, but it's sadly true. Fighting Till is a backstep for Jake Paul, which we won't see unless he needs a quick replacement opponent. Say in a similar situation to when he fought Mike Perry. Or if he loses his next few fights in a row and is looking to rebound. What I think is more likely for Till is more of these sorts of matches. Unless it's a mega fight, we will see them continue to build up Till's profile as an influencer boxer within the Misfits universe, against lesser known names. Till has said now he has a lot of loyalty towards Misfits and Mams Taylor, and I think he'll be with Misfits for the long haul. So I reckon they'll invest heavily in building up his name, give him a ton of these smaller name fights, and eventually build him up to where he can fight a Tommy Fury. But I guess time will tell, we'll see what happens next. But now, I want to hear what you think. What are your thoughts on Darren Till's performance against Stewart? And what do you think is next for him? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments down below. If you did enjoy the video, please consider liking and subscribing. It does a ton to help the channel. Yeah, thanks for watching fellas, and I'll catch you in the next one.